Is it the slab of shame or the slab of fame? We will find out. Welcome to the show they call, and indeed we, call the Comedy Slab. I'm Adrian Lacey, speaking to you from the southeast of England, and umbilically linked via the magic that is, and indeed the free magic that is, Skype, his graciousness, the Lord Shane of O'Connorshire. Come in, please, from the Midlands.
Thank you. And I've just had a nice hot cup of tea brought in by Mrs. O'Connor.
Luxury.
Wearing her skimpy deep sea diver outfit.
That's nice. Deep sea diver. No wonder you're tripping on your words. Got your adrenaline racing, didn't it?
It's the lead boots that do it every time.
Funnily enough, that's nearly the name of the show we're putting on the Comedy Slab. Lead boots.
Lead boots.
Not quite.
Yeah. Can I just tell you, I'm a bit of a superhero, mate, because I've got. What was that?
I'll need some evidence.
Because I was sat with my little boy this evening, just before he was going to bed, and I don't know what made me do it, but I put my finger in my mouth and went like that. You know when you do that.
You've not done it before in front of him?
No. And he was like, he looked at me as if I'd like pulled some kind of sword from outside
deep
the back
in
of
your throat,
back of my neck or something. Yeah, he was like absolutely, and I thought, oh yeah, that's the good thing about having kids that age, isn't it? You become almost superhuman, like things that everybody else takes for granted.
Yes, the threshold of wonder is somewhat lower at that age.
So, what's this, Adrian? Hey. No, you see, you're
not
as
still
impressed.
Waiting for something more. No, exactly. But I am not your young son.
I wish you could see his face.
And your son's only 23. That's the thing.
Exactly. Yeah, he's
wait till he goes to work.
he's
like he hasn't done a day's work in his life.
Very low expectations.
Anyway, I've got to throw to. Do I get my own news sting? A bit of music.
Oh, hang on. When have to rest this?
God. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a news flash.
I've got a new mixing desk, and for some reason, it's got this.
I'll have half a dozen.
We nearly didn't record the show, did we? Because we were so excited.
We were enjoying every momentous jingle.
Should we just do? I can actually program them, so we could program some in if you wanted to. If you wanted to, we could have travel news halfway through the podcast.
Mrs. O'Connor is blocking the hall because she has a large tea tray. Do not approach her.
18 months later, you're thinking, well, the traffic's cleared now.
Anyway, come on. You promised me off air before we hit record some industry news, and I wasn't allowed to know what it was. So now I insist because our listeners expect it as well.
Oh yeah, all it was, and I don't know. See, now the only reason I mentioned it is because I saw the headline, and I thought I must ask Adrian about this because you're quite well connected and you're in the know with all these people. And it's somebody that I'd never. I remember friends of mine when I was at school raving about him and saying, "Oh, he was really good." Around the same time, people used to rave about Chubby Brown. But the Cornish stand-up comedian Jethro.
Yes. I think I know what you're going to say. Yeah.
He's retiring, isn't he? He's announced his retirement after 50 years in comedy. 50 years of stand-up. That is a heck of an achievement, isn't it, really?
Yes. Does he do the band hits, have band hits? They couldn't play him. Judge something. I forgot what they were. Many moons ago. And there was Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, or Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, and he had consecutive hits. And they were all the more intriguing because they were banned from my then, or one of two favourite radio stations, Radio 1, I listened to back in the day.
I don't know. I'm not really sure. Like I say, he was one of the guys who, I mean, he's just like a kind of, and it's quite interesting that he still had a career now, which is one of the other reasons that I wanted to mention it, is because he would have been one of the casualties of the, let me think, what era would you say the
alternative
Jimmy
comedy that.
Yeah, the Jimmy Tarbucks and the Brucey and that kind of era. You know, when the alternative comedy came in. Was it the 80s? The start of the 80s.
Yeah.
just after punk, wasn't it? I think it was like late 70s, early 80s. He would have been one of the ones that would have had his career curtailed in a way, I suppose. But he didn't. He cultivated this niche, and he apparently used to, wherever he'd go, he'd sell out. I mean, he has done Raw Variety performances and loads of TV stuff back in the day. But he just kind of went and did this touring circuit, and has been hugely successful. 72 years old, he's decided to pack it all in. Real name Jeffrey Rowe. I never knew that, but they call him Jethro. That's his stage name. But
right,
he said, "Yeah, I think it's time to hang up the mic." He said, "I'm going to honour all my dates that are booked in, but as at the end of December," he said, "I'm going to no longer be working on his theatre tours," and that's what he's been doing, theatre tours. I didn't know whether you'd ever seen him. That's all. You've never seen him live, obviously.
No, I haven't. So I know next to nothing about his acts really, and I think I might be confusing him with someone else.
Right.
There was that might come back to me, but it's had judge in the title, but I don't know if that was the name of the artiste.
That rings a bell. And again, it was my school days that I remember somebody saying about, "Have you heard this record?" And
yeah,
I don't know who that was, but yeah, we'll have to look it up. Anyway, sorry, on to the Comedy Slab podcast for this week. You chose, didn't you, for last week? So
well, I did and I didn't. Someone with the same name as me chose, but I actually thought, yeah, that's a brilliant idea. And well, we both had it in mind. We both think we can't quite remember, as is our way, when we mentioned it. But we had previously mentioned Jack Dee's Lead Balloon, written by Jack Dee and Pete Sinclair. Now, I'm going to declare an interest. Well, it feels like an interest because actually, although I've lost contact with this friend, Pete Sinclair, the co-writer, who I didn't know but regularly has written with Jack Dee, he's actually a friend of, I don't want to say former friend because I don't give up on the friendship. And actually, this friend has moved to the Netherlands, but he's just started following me on Instagram. And so I'm hopeful that we're sort of one or two digital steps away from maybe an analogue meeting. You never know.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, you could always go Dutch, couldn't you? If you wanted to. But
hey.
So hang on a second.
So deadpan. Yeah.
So he's your friend knew his friend who had a friend who was.
No, it's not. It's not even that many degrees of separation. Oh. It's a friend who a guy called Chris, who I kind of lost contact, but then he has moved to another country. The way people hint that they want to, reduce their contact with you, the lengths they go to is amazing, isn't it, really?
It's crystal clear, though, isn't it? I mean, there is no ambiguity there.
I thought it was Crystal Gale, actually, but I could have been mistaken. But anyway, his friend is one of his many friends, wide circle of friends, but part of the Watford posse, I believe. Well, I say that. Maybe Pete's lived in London for years. I don't know. Anyway, it is Pete Sinclair. And actually, I met Pete Sinclair on one occasion in the course of my work and my sound engineering days. I was sound mixing on a pilot TV show. Now, there are three types of pilot TV show. Those that are planned to go out, those that may or may not go out, and those that are made in, as we were doing with this show, in such a way that they can't go out because they're just made in a rehearsal room. I'd never worked on a pilot like that before.
I thought you said much in a way as this show, as they can't go out because they're rubbish, and so they'll never see the light of day. I thought the third option was going to be the ones that they make just to shut somebody up, so that they go, right, we made your pilot, now go.
Well, I'm not privy to the political decisions behind the scenes on those kind of things. I've not ever been in the commissioning seat. But it was interesting. It was only a brief thing, but Pete Sinclair had written this show. And what I remember about it, which you'll enjoy, given the part of the world you're from, it included a Brummie. And guess whether the Brummie was a particularly bright intellectual individual or perhaps someone who was, shall we say, slightly challenged.
Tommy Tiernan, that's racist. That's racist, that is, as Tommy Tiernan would say.
It's regionalist.
It's racist to Brum. Now, there are race Brummies, are now. They've been declared.
Is it official? Is it like it's a bit late in the day, but the EU declared the Cornish pasty sort of geographically protected?
Well, they decided because they weren't part of the human race that we could have our own.
That, not me. You're answering all the emails from those Can they use email? Oh, no, of course they have emails in the Midlands.
I don't know what I am really. That's the problem with me, is because I was born in Warsaw, which is really yam country.
I thought it was in Poland. Oh,
no,
I thought it was in Warsaw.
which is in yam country, which is the black country.
Yeah.
But
that's racist. That's definitely racist.
You're racist, Tommy Tiernan. You're racist. But when I was born in Warsaw, it was actually in Staffordshire. So that makes me posh again.
They so wanted to distance themselves from you that they actually changed counties. It's like my mate Chris going to Amsterdam.
Yeah. They drew a boundary round me at one point. Because I'd fallen asleep.
Were you geographically protected?
Yeah.
Anyway, just a fleeting meeting, that rhymes, with Pete Sinclair on that pilot show. Now, the pilot show, as far as I know, that one didn't get made, and don't blame me just because the sound wasn't up to it.
What was it? Did it have a name?
It did have a name, but can I remember it? This is some years ago. But what I remember is, and this is before his fall from grace, and now he's been restored back to grace, Angus Deaton was in the lead role.
Oh, okay.
So you'd have thought, actually, with him in it and the heft he had, particularly in those days, you'd have thought it was a kind of shoe-in. But the fact they didn't actually make it in a TV studio, so it couldn't be broadcast because it just didn't, it wasn't made in that sense as a professional, sort of ready-to-air type show. It was professional in every other sense, including sound. Thank you very much. That was fun. Loads of radio mics had there.
Oh, right.
Smoke coming off my faders and my fingers. Anyway, enough about my ailments. So what do we need to say about Lead Balloon? Well, I watched, despite the fact I'm accused of being a Unitarian, only watching one show. Oh, no, that's a religious disposition, isn't it?
Yeah.
What did I end up being called?
I
nearly said urologist. That's not right either, is it?
You're a
monotheist, monotheist,
monoclastic,
right?
Monoelastic. No, you're mono.
Well, what we're trying to say, dear listener,
you're a singularist.
That's it. I only tend to watch one episode of any given series, unless I really, really, really like it. But most shows, just one or listen to one. But an exception was this show, Lead Balloon, which is a measure of how much I liked it as it was going out originally.
Whereas I'll tell you, because he won't, I'm actually a completist. I like to watch the whole series. So in terms of comedy, we're kind of like, if you bought us a box of chocolates, he'd go for all the hard centres and I'd go for all the soft centres, or vice versa. We're very different like that, aren't we? We
are indeed, which is why the marriage works so well, perhaps. I like coffee, you like tea. I like the Java Jive,
but it don't like me.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like you.
Anyway. What a prolific writer Pete Sinclair is as well, though. I mean, when you look at his body of work. Wow. Although, if you go back in the annals of the Comedy Slab podcast, he didn't always get it right for us, did he? Because he also wrote the Jack D comedy Bad Move. Remember with Kerry Godliman?
Oh gosh. That's going back in the annals of Slab history.
Yeah, where they moved to the countryside, the two of them, and we weren't really.
Well, that's all coming back.
We weren't impressed, were we? That was episode 15 of the Comedy Slab. That was.
Gosh, the real early days. We're now up to what are we? 80? Is this
84 today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Orwellian.
But I mean, massive body of work, isn't he? I mean, he writes additional material on. Have I got news for you? He writes Mark Steele's in Town. He puts the additional material on that. He's obviously a very collaborative writer, isn't he? Because he'll work, and I think that's why it works with him writing with Jack D. But I would have thought when he writes Mark Steele's in Town, he writes with Mark Steele. When he writes for Have I Got News for You, he writes with other people as well. He's very, well, he seems to be very collaborative.
Yes. But, you really need the social skills there as well as the comedic skills, obviously.
Yeah.
And from my very brief meeting with him all those years ago on that Angus Deaton show, he's very pleasant and, very smiley, as one would hope in the world of comedy. Although, of course, I don't know Jack D, but of course Jack D's on-stage personality, and certainly in the role of Rick Spleen in this Lead Balloon, we will get onto the first of three audio clips in a sec, is obviously quite a dour moody, overcast type character. Now, is this the point at which I've got to second guess what I think you're going to make of it?
Yeah.
Well, I think you've sort of given it away, haven't you, previously? Or have I imagined it? I think you're going to like it. It's just a hunch I've got. I think you think it's a quality piece of work. And, gosh, we're setting a dangerous precedent. Didn't you try to second guess the score I was going to give it last week?
Yeah.
Out of 5, which we do at the end. I don't know if I want to encourage that kind of behaviour. That could get either very addictive.
Shall I write it on a piece of paper and then we can turn it round at the end?
You could do, although no one other than me can see the piece of paper, so no one listening will believe you, knowing you as they do.
Well, I will. I'll write it down now. I'm going to write down my score on that piece of paper there.
Well, the one that you're waving, but I'm assuming you're showing me the back of it.
You can't see it.
Be glad to see the back
on my
of it.
Post-it notes. There you go.
Okay. No, I couldn't see, even though I think you had it the right way round before, but I couldn't read it.
I got my finger over it like that, so
all right.
You couldn't see what it was.
Very small writing, or a very big finger. I'm not sure.
So, go on. Do you want to have a guess, and I'll reveal at the end?
Oh gosh. Well, see, you threatened to give something. No, you did give something 3.5 last week, didn't you? That's usually my score. You were nicking my default score. I could even imagine. Oh no, this is sticking my neck out. I'll stick my neck out then. Probably get it lopped off. I could see you giving this a 4 because you don't very often give things 3.5. You're a bit of a polarized individual.
Okay.
Like a camera. Yeah, I think you get right, but I could be totally wrong. I've been wrong.
So you're sticking
times.
with 4, yeah? 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go on then.
All right. Should we have the first clip, and I'll reveal all at the end when we reveal the scores.
Yes, I don't reveal anything.
I won't reveal anything now.
Right.
Although I'm beginning to regret wearing culottes, but carry on.
Aren't they small onions?
No, they're shallots.
Oh, shallot. That's shallot.
That's shallot, mate.
Boom. Right. Now, I've got some clues here in the file names of the clips. Got 3 audio clips for you. This one gives me a big clue. Something I'm going to praise in Lead Balloon is the number of subplots going on. That's a real quality. It feels like it's squeaking in a nice way. It's stuffed full of stuff. And we're about to hear right from the top of the show, which, you can't get much of a better scene setter than that. And you can't get quicker than a quick fitter, I believe. But the scene set tells you about Jack D. He's in one of those speeding classes. So rather than take the points necessarily,
They teach you how to speed.
They teach you how to speed. And we hear the marvellous, it's David Cann, I think, as the rather authoritarian leader of that group. So this is Jack in class, one of those speeding classes, taking his punishment. And he's made the mistake of saying the reason he did over 30 miles an hour was he assumed that it was a 40 zone.
Let me let you in on a little secret about the word assume. Assume makes an ass out of you and me. Or in this case, more you than me. So if it says 30, it means 30. No arguments, no excuses. Unless, of course, you happen to be driving a big red truck with the word fire written on the side.
Or you're a minicab driver.
Oh, we have a comedian in our midst. Let me ask you, what do you do for a living?
I am a comedian.
Very funny. But joking aside, what's your line of work?
Well, no, that's what I do. I am a comedian.
Listen, sunshine. We can do this the fun way, or I can make your day with me a misery. So, what do you do for a job of work?
I'm a sales rep. I sell biscuits.
That's better. So, when you're driving around, selling your biscuits...
I mean, there are times, aren't there, when it's just easier to just go, oh, all right, I sell biscuits instead.
Accept your punishment, yeah. I was looking forward to him digging in, but yeah.
And that's what I liked about it. Sometimes the character does, and sometimes the character doesn't, and you never know whether he's going to do that or not. It reminded me. Was it Nigel Mansell used to tell the story about he used to hate getting pulled over by the police because they'd walk up to the car and they go, "Who do you think you are?" Not. Oh. It's a bit like that, isn't it? What do you do for a living? I'm a comedian. Now listen, son, we can do this the fun way.
And actually, I love the idea that the David Cann character thinks it's fun, what he's normally doing.
Yeah.
As opposed to when he's in a mood.
I was trying to think where I know him from. He's done a lot of stuff, hasn't he?
I will tell you. You know him from Jam or Blue Jam, which was that the
he was in the Day to Day, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's part of that Armando Iannucci and Chris Morris set, and very talented, I believe they are, and he is. He plays a doctor, which is interesting when you know that. In Jam, he's a doctor, a spooky doctor that you absolutely wouldn't want to be on the books of.
Right.
But you're best off either with a locum or with some kind of witch doctor, I think, rather than him.
Right. Okay.
But when you find out that, as I did, that Chris Morris's parents are both doctors, that kind of makes you, well, I don't know, it puts your teeth a bit on edge because you think, is he getting these stories from real life for his parents?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So headline then. Do you want me to give you a headline?
Yes. Yeah, over to you.
Because I'm really proud of this one. My headline is... Oh, hang on, let me just move my microphone. My headline is, Lead Balloon, It Won't Let You Down.
Oh, I'm beginning to feel some reassurance that my prediction might not be too wide of the mark then.
Let's just say you're in the right ballpark. I mean, there's no question about it, you're in the right ballpark.
It didn't live up to its name. It didn't go down like a lead balloon. So that's great.
This is, and you know, I did question myself as to whether this is a bit of nostalgia there as well, because Angelina and I, my wife and I, watched this together. Like, it was like an evening thing. We watched it on catch up or whatever. So we kind of watched all 4 series. You know, one a day, kind of one an evening, or near enough. And she's not renowned for being massively into many comedies. She's very discerning in terms of what she likes and what she doesn't like. Mm-hmm. And she absolutely loved this. We really loved it. It was something that we've you know, I've kind of got fond memories of sitting watching and laughing together and talking about it and that kind of thing. And so I didn't know whether that was, I've got this lovely warm fuzzy feeling about it anyway. But I have to say, I enjoyed watching this episode even more than when I watched it the first time round.
Me too. I was going to say that.
Because you'd watched a couple of these, haven't you, as well?
I've watched quite a few. Now, by your theory, I shouldn't like it, given that my marriage has fallen apart since I used to sit there watching it and laughing with my wife. This became one of our staple TV dinner type TV shows.
How weird is that? That is really weird, isn't it? Don't you think? It's like, I wonder if it's a couple's thing. I was just reminding her of it tonight. I said, we're doing Lead Balloon on the Comedy Slab tonight. She said, we really enjoyed that, didn't we? It's really quite nice. It was kind of, she said it was, what was the word? She's like inoffensive or something like that. But it is more than that, I think. But I know exactly what she meant. It was like, it was kind of, there was something in it for both of us.
Yeah.
In that sense. But yeah, I mean, you enjoyed it more this time again, did you, than when you...
I did, because getting the old Comedy Slab scalpel in, and of course the image of our show is we put something on the marble slab to dissect it. And so if people haven't heard before, we try and watch things or listen to things that we're putting on the Comedy Slab twice. First time through, we try and be, quote, an ordinary viewer or listener, as far as that is possible, and just enjoy it without any notes, no pausing, try and watch it all the way through or listen to it all the way through. And the second time, we put our more analytical hats on, just because we are trying to dissect it a bit as well. So I think that's the best of both worlds. And I actually looked forward to the second viewing, because it's so beautifully crafted.
Yeah.
They really know what they're doing, which might be stating the bleeding obvious after all these years for both of them. But.
Now, you'll tell me this, because I don't really know. I don't know TV from the inside like you do, as well as you do. And when I watch this, one of the things that I think about Lead Balloon is that it has what I would call an identity. It has, if you're in marketing, it has a house style guide, if you like, that kind of thing. There is, and I mean, above and beyond the introduction where he writes on Post-it notes, he actually writes it on a notebook as well, doesn't he? Misspells balloon.
Yes.
And crosses it. So you've got this hand writing these things, and they're writing little cutaways, writing gags in between, and all that sort of stuff. All aside from that, I mean, I think it's the way that it's shot. I mean, it's beautifully shot, but it's also lit quite naturally. I think, don't you think? It's on the dark side of lighting, so it kind of looks like it's really in people's homes or really in a cafe. It's not overproduced, but it's got this kind of. Do you think has he got who would be responsible for that kind of style? Well, is that the director?
Ultimately, yes, I suppose any creative thing, but of course it can be one word from the director. I want it looking underlit, and it can be hours and hours of work for the people who've got to realise that. Yeah. And what they didn't have in my day, when I was doing work in TV studios, there are now colourists, so you can help the look by you have a colour palette that can be completely unique to the show, really. Yeah, and you can crank up the greens. It's quite a sort of moody looking show, as well as what you're saying about being underlit. Yeah. So you crank up. I think they cranked up the cooler colours indoors, but I haven't got an image of it in front of me. But you can do that. I mean, you could do it on every frame if you can afford it. Adverts. I mean, throw money at colourists, I'm sure.
Do they have, when you were doing it, did they have lighting cameramen as well? Was that a thing?
Well, I was in studios with there's different names and slightly different jobs. This is a multi-camera environment I was working in.
Oh, okay.
Lighting cameraman or woman, that's a sort of imported from film, as are many terms, and I think I associate it with single camera work. So yes, we had in the studios, it was camera, and they still, as far as I know, have camera supervisors who head the camera crew. They don't direct the lighting. You have a separate lighting director in TV multi-camera studios, but a lighting cameraman or woman is actually, as the name implies, they're leading the light crew as well as being in charge of the pictures as a camera operator.
So you got to complete the identity then. So you've got these stylized images of the handwriting and writing stuff on there as well. You've got the way that it's lit and probably the palette as well and the look of it. And then the final thing that I think they do so well is the music. Got to mention the music.
Oh yeah. Well, I think in our second clip we hear a bit of music. Actually, I did them in the wrong order, so I can't remember. Right. I definitely got possibly the next two clips. There should be bits of music. Now, interestingly, that made me think of one person and one person only. The style of music. Did it make you think of anyone in the film world? In the comedy film?
Laurel and Hardy, that kind of feel.
Well, I suppose he may have got it from that. I was thinking Woody Allen, the jazz interludes.
Right. If you go back to the Laurel and Hardy films, they used to have.
I love the way it was so quiet you could barely hear it.
Yeah, and it was almost like a gramophone record playing in the background, wasn't it? That kind of. That's what that put me in mind of. But the theme. Right. Did you notice who the theme music was by?
No, I meant to look that up, and I forgot. You're going to tell me, I hope.
It is Paul Weller.
I recognised the vocals. Yeah, or I wanted to double check. For half of it, I thought, oh, that's Paul Weller, and then he carries on, and it didn't sound like him for a moment.
Yeah, bizarre. No, it is. It is at the start and at the end, and I got to recommend this because I'd forgotten. I played this to death. This album. It's from an album called Studio 150, which I think actually, funnily, curiously enough, is in Holland. Studio 150. He went into Studio 150 and he decided he was going to do a load of covers. Paul Weller from the Jam and the Style Council.
What sort of year are we talking?
Recently. Not say recently, within the last 10 years, I would have thought, something like that, right. 10, probably 15 at the outside. And he thought, I'm going to go and do a load of covers. And he did songs like that one, which I can't think for the life of me what it's called now. It's something Road, isn't it? But he did Close to You, the Carpenters.
Oh,
Why do birds suddenly... Yeah, It's too high. It's too high. If you want your Alan Partridge reference. And Wishing on a Star, I'm wishing on a star.
Rolls Royce, no less.
I mean, and you kind of think, Paul Weller's doing, and it is just one of my favourite albums, not only of Paul Weller, but of all time. I think it's just unbelievable. If you get the chance, Paul Weller, Studio 150, go and grab yourself a download or whatever you do these days.
And
have
it's
a listen.
called One Way Road.
One Way Road, that's it, yeah.
And did you work out who'd written it?
I'd never heard the song before this, so I'm not really quite. She's got that alto sax thing going on at the start, hasn't it? Is it an alto sax or something of that nature? Some woodwind instrument.
I'd have to hear it again. But actually, it's by Noel Gallagher, the song you're referring to. It says ending theme, but isn't it? Doesn't it feature at the beginning and the end? It
was on the tail end of that clip you just played there.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it does come on. Talking about clips, whether we better have a...
Yeah, yes. People are thinking, they've promised us another 2.
Yeah.
Right, now I've got to look at my prompts to remind me so I know how to set this up. And also, as I say, I did them in the wrong order earlier. I sent you a copy of these clips with the legend attached. These are all the right clips, not necessarily in the right order.
Yeah.
So yet another comedic reference from yesteryear. If I've got it in the right order, this one should feature Magda. We'll get on to Anna Crilly afterwards. I'm sure you'll have something to say about her, who plays Magda. Polish. She's Polish in the plot.
Polish, yeah, Polish, yeah.
Yeah, so sort of, I was going to say home help, that's the wrong term. Domestic assistant, whatever term you want to use.
Au pair.
Thank you, something like that.
I think she's actually referred to in other episodes. If my memory serves me correctly, I think
that sounds about right. Yeah, she's
more
than just a cleaner, although she is referred to in one of those scribbled notes as a cleaner later on. Yeah. Long story. Anyway, so we've heard that Jack D, his character Rick Spleen, has got done for speeding. But I'm slightly confused because if you do the course, you don't get the points. But anyway, he's trying to get rid of the points. He's doing a Chris Huhne and Vicky Price, which is trying to offload his, just making it topical, trying to offload his points. Actually, that was a few years ago.
I was going to say that is like anti-topical, isn't it?
That's as close as topical as I get.
You'll be talking about Eric Cantona kicking somebody in the chest in a minute.
Well, yeah. Or I could be having talked about that last week.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's tried palming them off on his partner, and she's too bright to fall for that and too familiar. I don't mean that Magda's not bright, but she's not so familiar with British culture, shall we say.
Yeah.
He's also tried palming them off on his comedy other half, American guy who's... sorry, I keep forgetting the character name.
Marty.
Thank you.
Marty's the American, isn't he? Yeah.
He is indeed, yeah. And we should get on to him later as well. Anyway, so he's got a bit more chance with Magda, but I can't remember if this is this is the first time he's trying to pump. No, I think... Oh, she's sort of accepted the points, but then... unlike in TV where points mean prizes, points don't quite work that way in the real world, as she's about to find out.
Oh, this is all right. What this is you have to pay a £500 penalty, or you can go on a safe driving course. It's like a talk about driving. I've done it. It's quite interesting.
I don't like to have to do this.
Well, it's up to you. You can always pay the fine if you prefer.
I don't have this much money.
Well... probably the course is your best option, yeah. It's only half a day. I reckon you'd enjoy it.
And where's Milton Keynes?
Milton Keynes. It's North London way.
So I can take Underground?
Probably better not. No, easier by car.
And how long would it take me to drive?
Oh, half an hour. Maybe more, it's depending on traffic.
But I'm worried. The car is breaking down and sometimes it stops in the road and I can't start it.
Give yourself plenty of time. You'll be fine.
Perhaps it's better I take your car.
Yeah. Not sure I like the idea of you driving my car, to be honest.
But you have said I did drive.
Yeah, I know. And look what's happened. I think it's probably better we stick to our own cars from now on.
See what I mean? That music is Laurel and Hardy, isn't it? Don't you think?
Now you mentioned it. Yeah, I thought immediately that's...
Definitely. Anna Crilly. I mean...
Yeah, Anna Karenina. No.
Do you know, I don't know if you know her double act partner. Do you know her double act partner was somebody we know?
I only through looking it up. It's the lovely Katie Wicks, who we sort of slabbed in. The political party.
Party.
Is it just called Party? Yeah. But
She's
also plays Daisy in the Lee Mack vehicle, Going Out. Not going out. One of the two. Yeah,
going out was the pilot.
That didn't work.
Then they went, not
didn't
going
go
out. Yeah, that's better. Here's the thing, though, and this leaves me a little bit conflicted because there's a lot of face in this particular episode, and I think probably through the series as well. There's a lot of facial expressions. There's a lot of pulling faces. Now, 2 comedy slabs ago, we were talking about Derry Girls, and I was saying, that absolutely ruined it for me. Yeah, because it just was just so out of place, and it just didn't work at all. Now, for some reason, for me, and I don't know if it's just you buy off people you like, it's that kind of thing again. But I loved it. I mean, I love the fact that. She's always, she's obviously a very glass half empty kind of person, isn't she? And she's always got a bit of a face on her, as they'd say in Birmingham.
Bit of a gob on, as they say in London.
Bit of a gob on her, yeah. And he's the same. I mean, he pulls the face all the while, why? I don't know why that is. It's. I don't know why I'm asking you, but for me,
I'm as good a person as any.
Well, you're the only person here.
Exactly.
It worked, and yet Derry Girls. And I have to say, I watched the rest of the first series of Derry Girls, and it got less facey as time went on. Either that, or I got used to it. And it didn't bother me because I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed the rest of the first series. But I don't know why it bothers me in one thing, and it's actually an absolute boon in another. I don't get it.
Well, one difference. This may or may not be the answer. Is it's younger actors pulling faces in Derry Girls.
Yeah.
When I think they don't quite know the effect of what they're doing. I mean, lummy, I don't have their acting skills at my age, but they will get better with experience, I'm sure.
But they do. If they've come from drama school, they do say that, like, if you're on stage, you do have to do everything very, very big.
On stage, yeah, compared to on camera.
Do it on TV, and you've blown it, haven't you? So maybe that's the size, not the face that matters.
There's a bit that is relevant in Arthur Miller's Time Bends, his fantastic autobiography. I got it when I finally sorted out after 20 years of eye strain. I got a decent pair of glasses, and I promised myself as a treat. I'd looked at this book on the shelf. I couldn't read it before. Well, I mean, I would have just had to keep stopping through eye fatigue. Very dull for our dear listeners, and indeed, I'm sure for you. But the quote is, Arthur Miller, of course, famous as a stage playwright, more famous in the early days for that than what he became in later life. He did have some experience in the movies, but when he married Marilyn Monroe.
If that doesn't count and qualify as experience in the movies, shacking up with Marilyn Monroe, I don't know what does. But that's
well, exactly. But he was on set with her. It was his script for The Misfits, and he says in Time Bends, he said. He looked at, it's not Clark Gable, is it? Whoever the male lead was against Marilyn Monroe.
Was it Rock Hudson?
That sounds right, yeah. I think you're right. What a man who can immediately do. I mean, you couldn't have even typed that into Wikipedia in that time, could you?
I could be wrong. I don't know.
No, I think you're right. Disturbingly.
You go on anyway, yeah, sorry.
Well, anyway, Arthur Miller was observing the shooting, but of course he couldn't be as close to them as the camera effectively was. And he was going to I think he did have words with the director saying, but I'm sorry, Rock Hudson's not giving it enough there. He just like shrugs his shoulders or something and nothing happened. Then they see the rushes, and Arthur Miller thinks it's absolutely bang on the money. Yeah. And good on him for being honest, for admitting to his own error and lack of experience. The director, of course, knew what he was doing, and tiny facial movements were sufficient with a close-up to convey the story, which is what they're doing.
I mean, Jack D is as you I think said more or less at the start this evening, he's a past master at being miserable, isn't he? So I mean, he kind of can carry that off till the cows come home. There's no problem with that. I do wonder though whether, and I don't know whether I'm saying this as a criticism or whether I'm saying this as just as an observation, or whether I'm actually saying that this is one of the reasons why it's as good as it is. It crossed my mind on more than one occasion. Have they just created a young Victor Meldrew?
Well, it's a Victor Meldrew that I like as opposed to the other one. Got nothing against the fine actor Richard Wilson, but I never warmed to Mr. Meldrew. I know you're going to say, well, you're not meant to warm to him in a way, but I didn't enjoy hating him even as a character. I don't know, but I do find myself, even with one episode, I have to confess, notwithstanding the fact I did really enjoy slabbing this edition of Lead Balloon, I was starting to feel, right, I have got a saturation point for this moodiness. I'm not there yet, but I wouldn't go scurrying away, as I suspect you may, you'll possibly go back and rediscover the rest of the series, if not all 4 series now. I feel I've had my fill of Rick's spleen, and he's got my spleen for now. But I will love going back to it after a little rest.
Is he a believable character, do you think? Because he's one of these who's always hoist by his own petard, isn't he? He's always the architect of his own downfall. Because he never knows when to stop, when to draw the line, when to relent, when to apologise, when to be nice. He just never knows when to do that. He can never see it coming, whereas everybody else can. Is that cliched, or is that still as believable today as it was when it was first thought of, probably 50 years ago plus?
Well, I think you put your finger on it earlier in this slab when you talked about the fact you don't know which way it's going to go. And I think it's that unpredictability that stops it from becoming just a cliche or a cardboard cutout. I think there's enough light and shade there. And there's that thing that I suppose going right back to Laurel and Hardy you've referenced, we got there via the music, but it doesn't matter really. They're behind loads of comedy that they've kind of spawned, aren't they, ultimately?
Yeah.
Early screen heroes in comedy. Is that feeling that it was an ex-girlfriend of mine who really loved Laurel and Hardy in a way that, like, it had just come on the telly for the first time. She had that lovely innocence about it, which was infectious. And she said at the start of every show, everything's perfect again, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think they've taken a leaf out of that sort of book that you and this does help refresh you. So it does counter what I'm talking about, feeling a little bit jaded with the character at the end of seeing it twice in quick succession. But there's that thing, right? Everything is new. What could possibly go wrong? That kind of blue skies. Wonderful fresh air. Here we go. Yeah. That sort of feel.
I mean, casting is just spot on, isn't it? I mean, there's not a hair out of place in the casting department. I mean, it's just the only thing I was disappointed about was that we didn't see his neighbour from across the street. Did you ever remember him? And he's always gone on about his mother.
I don't remember him, but I possibly saw him if he was in. I think I only saw material from the first and second series. I think I did.
I think he came in later, but he ended up with a kind of catchphrase because he'd come and he'd say, there was a bit of noise, and my mother across the street, she's a bit, Rick, she's not very, and he always, his catchphrase ended up being, she's 83, Rick, because he'd say something, say, well, can't she do something? She's 83, Rick. And he'd said that on many an occasion. I was just disappointed that he wasn't in this particular episode. But big shout out to Rasmus Hardiker, who plays Ben, because he's from my neck of the woods. He's from Sutton Coldfield.
With a name like that, it sounds very exotic, the name.
They're all called Rasmus in Sutton Coldfield. It sounded a bit like the Monty Python. And what's the Monty Python? Joachim Razbaz.
I don't remember him.
No, I don't know where that came from, actually, but it was something that my brother used to shout at various intervals. And Rasmus Hardiker, who plays... He stars alongside Steve Coogan in Saxondale, which we've never slabbed, have we? Which we
should.
Which is the Steve Coogan thing that I always think people step over. I don't know why, but maybe we should do that. Perhaps we can discern why people don't mention it or, never kind of reference it or name check it. But yeah, he plays. I think it's Raymond. He's his trainee because Saxondale is a rodent control operative or whatever you want to call it. So, but yeah, no, and I've only ever seen him in that, and Saxondale led by that's all. But the supporting cast, they're great, weren't they? I mean, they're just.
Well, hold that thought. Should we hear our third and final clip because it is relevant? You're talking about the boyfriend. And there's a reason why I want to play this. This is with Rick Spleen's daughter. Yeah. Goes by the wonderful name Antonia Campbell Hughes. That's the actress's name.
I think I know. I won't ruin it, but I think I know why you want to play it. But yeah,
right. Well, okay. Well, let's discuss that afterwards. You can second guess why I'm going to play it. What do I need to say? Well, actually, we come in on her mother first because there's two running gags here. I've said how it's squeaking. It's packed, stuffed full of subplot and even the coffee has got its own story, as we're about to hear. Well, I should at least set the scene that Magda's gone out to buy some coffee. They'd run out, but she's got the wrong sort. And then there's a lovely discussion about how she got a big jar. And Rick Spleen says to her, well, why did you buy a big jar of the wrong sort of coffee, knowing it was the wrong sort? She said, well, it was cheap. So Rick's partner is going to pay the price in just a mo. This is Mel, played by Raquel Cassidy. And the other running gag we'll hear part of here is that the daughter wants a tattoo, as does the boyfriend, played by Erasmus. No, sorry, Erasmus. Erasmus is an EU project for academics. That was a bit Freudian. Anyways, right, I'll let them do their own talking now. I'll shut up. Two great running gags.
Oh, this coffee's disgusting.
Oh, you didn't have the stuff in that big jar, did you?
Yuck.
Yeah, Magda bought it because it's on special offer. Proper jar's behind the bread bin.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, Mum. Hi, Dad. About the tattoo.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
Did you get it done?
Not exactly.
Not exactly. What does that mean?
Yeah, well, the thing is, me and Ben went down to the tattoo place and the offer was finished. So what we thought was that if we held on to the money for a bit and see if it was okay with you if I don't get it done, and if it is okay, then maybe we could spend it on other stuff so that I don't get it done by someone else.
So what, you spent the money on other things?
No, it's not that. Well, some of it. Yeah, well, most of it, yeah.
That's fine, sweetheart.
Yeah? Really? Cool. Because, well, it's quite good, actually, because Ben's mum didn't want him to get a tattoo. So, it's worked out quite well.
Yeah, hasn't it?
I looked at my daughter at this point and had a bit of a flash forward.
She's not quite reached her teens just yet. You've got all that to look forward to.
And a cold sweat. It's just like wading through treacle with like very short wellies on, isn't it? It's just, oh man.
But she does it so beautifully, doesn't she?
Oh yeah, she's fab. Go on. Why did you want to? Because I think I know.
Well, we got a second guess because we were talking about outnumbered. Is that did you make that connection?
Oh no,
last week. I just thought the contrast between the outnumbered kids and the kids here, if I can call them kids. I just thought you would appreciate the difference, or I hoped you would like Sam, who we just heard.
Again, there's a huge amount of believability in there, isn't there? Don't you think? That I mean, people up and down the country would be going, "Oh, my daughter's like that; it's a nightmare," or "My son's like that," or "I know somebody who's got kids like that," or what? It's just bang on the button in terms of the writing, the delivery. You're just so immersed in it. Now, the reason I thought you were going to mention it is because she would have actually been more at home in episode 82 of the Comedy Slab podcast because she is a Derry girl.
Right. And I read that. And here's the thing. I think this might be Wiki throwing a wobbler because Anna Crilly is down in Wikipedia as Irish. And yet in the same sentence, virtually, it says she's born in Kent, my county. Well, my adopted county now.
Right. Well, Crilly is an Irish name, isn't it? I mean, there's no question about that.
So, how... Well, maybe she's just bought an Irish passport. I don't know. But if you're born in Kent, you're Kentish and English and British. Am I missing something?
I mean, no.
But if she had Irish parents, but...
Yeah, I've got an Irish. Well, I had an Irish father, but I was born in Warsaw, so that makes me a village idiot.
But you're not called You don't call yourself Irish because you're not.
I don't call myself at all. I don't call myself nearly often enough.
Just call me.
Yeah, no, I don't. That doesn't. I mean, if it's a footballer, I understand that because very often footballers, like Jack Grealish, who plays for the Villa, started out in his career playing his international football for Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, because he's got an Irish grandfather.
Right.
But then he realised he might get a chance to get in the England squad, so he's actually changed nationality, and now he's decided he's English.
But
so
now we left the EU, he might want an Irish passport. He should have had both. That's the best of both worlds, surely.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I think you have to. I think you can only change a couple of times as well in international football. I don't think you can keep going backwards and forwards and playing for different. Different countries.
I can see the reason for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's not a hint of Irish accent there, is there, from Antonio?
No. I mean, I just had a quick look at a YouTube video of her being interviewed before we came to do this.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, did I imagine that she's got a Northern Irish accent in real life? But she has. I mean, it's really I think she's either it has softened through her acting, or she's trying to kill it, one or the other, because she talks a lot slower than somebody who you would expect to talk from that neck of the woods, right. And that kind of decimates her accent. And she almost sounds a bit transatlantic now in her accent because she's got a very slow delivery. But again, fabulous. I don't know why we're not seeing more of these people. Without exception, Tony Gardner, who plays Michael, the neurotic cafe owner, is just fabulous supporting actor.
And a trained doctor as well, you probably knew.
No, I didn't know. I didn't pick that up.
He was one half of the, I better get this right, the radio duo Struck Off and Die, which is a brilliant name for a pair of doctors who were also comedians.
Right, I didn't realise that that was him. Or that he was a doctor.
I didn't realise that.
Yeah. Fabulous. But yeah, I mean, all round, I mean, I was really struggling. I was just trying to sort of pick something out that I thought, could I criticise it at all? Is there anything that I could critique it for, or I could just give it a bit of a nudge or anything? I mean, the best I could come up with was that it featured the voice of Alan Carr as the clairvoyant at the end. We didn't actually see him.
Yes. Oh, that was very subtle, not talking about a TV astrologer, because Rick Spleen's partner is...
she's an agent, isn't she?
She's an agent, yeah.
Yeah.
Although I don't remember her talking about that much. I struggled to think what she did for a living, not having watched any of these for years. Do you remember that when you were watching episodes regularly?
Yeah, there were a few episodes where she was representing somebody, and she told, I think there was one episode where she told Rick that her client was up for some program that he wanted to do, and he didn't know that it was happening, and he went, well, I'm going to go. And she said, well, you can't do for that. And of course he did go for it, and, with hilarious consequences.
No doubt, yes.
But actually were. But yeah, I forgot to mention it's an open mic production, isn't it, for the BBC?
Oh, thank you, yes. Of course, that was Addison Cresswell, who, since the series was first broadcast, or any of the 4 series, he's died young.
And Jack D's company as well. Jack D owns. He's one of the directors, isn't he?
All right. Well, but of course he was on Addison Cresswell's books, but that's how it worked, really.
Yeah. Interestingly, David Morley, the writer, is also a director on the company, and Andrew Bent, who was Baint, I should say, Beint, Baint.
Did you mean writer? You said writer there.
David Morley is a writer.
Right. Well, I'd written other episodes of this.
No, he's written with all kinds of comedians. He's If it's the right David Morley, there's a David Morley who's quite a prolific writer who writes all kinds of various other comedy, but I don't think he's actually written for Jack D. And say Andrew Baines, he's a prolific producer. I mean, he's worked on like all the named stuff that you would imagine comedy wise. He's been there and been involved. So prolific team at Open Mic, I would have thought, really, as a production company. But
yeah, the top team. It's quite an Irish influence here. Just before we wrap up and give each other's scores, I've only just spotted, you probably saw this before me, Sean Power, who plays our American writer, Marty, is actually Irish himself. Well, Power is a very Irish name.
It is,
I think it's mixed parentage. I don't know which football team he'd have to play for, but hang on, no, sorry, it says American actor, but an Irish father and Canadian mother.
Oh, right.
It's
okay.
all very exotic. Anyway, I know that much.
Yeah,
Raised
right.
in Canada, the US and Ireland.
Wow.
There's a mix.
What a trip to school that was.
Yes.
He'd have had
Took
to
him
get the
ages
bus.
to get home. Yeah.
Definitely. yeah.
Are we at that point we can put off no further where we have to score out of 5 each?
I think so. Definitely, yes. Shall I hold mine up on the electronic scoreboard so you can tell everybody what's written on there?
Or as we call it, a post-it note
That's it.
that I'm looking at over Skype. Yeah.
You said 4, and I'd written...
4.5. Lummy.
Oh, yeah. I can't get
4.5.
enough of it. I mean, the only thing that breaks my heart about this series is that there are only 4 in this show.
Four
There are only
series,
4
yeah.
in the 4 series, because I think he'd had the legs. I mean, when you think that Not Going Out, as you mentioned earlier, is on series 12 or something like that, and they've absolutely ruined it now. And I wouldn't want to see that happen to Lead Balloon, but I did think it had more in it. But it's a shame. Great cast, great writing, great delivery, great acting, great timing, great pace. I just can't find anything. I didn't like the kitchen table. Is that what I mean?
Is that why you lopped off a half cruelly?
But for the kitchen table.
Right,
Who
okay.
has a wooden block kitchen table in
I
South
thought the
London?
performance was a bit wooden, yeah, to be honest.
Go on, what
and
about you, big boy?
Unlike the show, it had legs, though. No, sorry, like the show. Oh, I ruined that.
I like that. It was good.
Yeah, you choked on your purple drink then. I'm sure it's Campari. You always claim it's fruit-based for
Who
the
drinks
ladies.
Campari? They stopped making Campari in
Don't
1974.
Yeah, but it was a great year, you must admit. I've got a garage full of 1974 vintage Campari. Right. Well, I'm going to sound mean now, but I'm not allowed to, in my head. I don't allow myself to change the score I decided on. Maybe I decided on the wrong one, he said, being slightly slippery. I was going to say a classic 3.5, and now that sounds, of course, very mean. And
Why?
especially
If that's how you felt about it, that's how you felt about it, isn't it?
But I'm just wondering if the problem I have is this the fatigue issue, and what I haven't said, but it hasn't mattered so much the way we approach this on the slab. But certainly, if you'd asked me at the time when it was TV dinners staple food some years ago, I would have said, well, actually, I hadn't coined the term then, but I'd have said not enough laughs, lots of smiles. It's what I now call a smile-com.
Right.
And interestingly, in the notes, it does reference The Office, and Jack Dee, of course, being a smart cookie, had worked out The Office had changed the rules of engagement for comedians and TV comedies. Half-hour shows, they no longer needed a studio audience. They weren't made in the studio, of course. Well, not in front of an audience. I'm not sure if the house interiors are studio or an actual house. As you were saying earlier, it does look like the real thing. So, yeah, there is that hunger that, well, hang on, Jack Dee, you're a comedian and you know how to get laugh after laugh after laugh as a stand-up. It seems a bit churlish now, in a funny way. But, yeah, I would have liked a bit more of a sort of belly laugh.
I mean, even if you give it 3.5, it still comes away with 8 out of 10.
Okay.
So I mean, that is, if somebody said that to me, do you want 8 out of 10? I think, you know what I mean? I would take that, wouldn't you? But
well, the cats would, certainly.
8 out of 10 cats would. Not all of them.
No, that's true. 2 out of 10.
Yeah.
Too drunk to bother. Okay, 3.5 with a possible review at the end of the year to see if I've been cruel.
Git. I'm kidding.
Of course.
I've put a link in the description for where you can go and, I'm sorry folks, but where you can go and buy Lead Balloon. You can't actually go through...
we shouldn't be so apologetic about people. I mean, we pay for dinners, don't we? You don't go to Tesco and get a free meal out of them.
No,
Well,
not true,
normally.
but, you know... I think it's Channel 4 being so generous. It's spoiled a lot of people, hasn't it? Really, but yeah, you can go. They're not a lot an episode. Actually, I think they're a couple of quid an episode. Actually, in fairness, so it kind of works out cheaper than we used to pay for DVDs, doesn't it? Really, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I put a link in there. It's an open mind production for the BBC 4 series you can feast your little peepers on. Shall I tell you what the homework is for next week then? Because I'm as much in the dark with this one as you are, I'm afraid. All I've done, and I like doing these actually, because I think it means it levels the playing field. It means that we both come to this. I'm thinking, I mean, you might have snuck in and watched this, I don't know. But it's a new comedy, and I'm thinking it might level the playing field because neither of us has seen it. I've only seen a trailer for it, and I thought, I like him, and I like him. I'm going to watch that at some point. And I thought, well, why don't we slab it and do it like that then? It's a program. It's a BBC program. I think it actually aired on BBC One, and I think it's either still running or it's coming close to the end of its first series. And it's called King Gary.
Oh, no, not even heard of that, so no, definitely not seen it.
It stars a guy, I don't know if you've seen the guy Tom Davis, he's a giant of a man. And I've seen him in a few things. I've seen him I think he was in Murder in Successville, if you've ever seen that.
I have seen that, I've enjoyed that.
He's a
Greg
big fella.
Davis is a Man Mountain, but you're talking about a different Davis.
He's this massive. Well, he's not a massive guy, but he's a big, tall fella anyway. And I've seen him in a few other things as well, which I'm sure we'll talk about next week. And other than that, I can tell you what Internet Movie Database says about it. It said it's a sitcom following the trials and tribulations of family man Gary King and his wife Terry as they aspire to achieve success in competitive suburbia and impress Gary's dad, Big Gary, who I think is played by Simon Day. Yes, he is. Simon Day from The Fast Show.
Oh, wow.
And it's got a few of the faces you'll recognise instantly along the way, I would have thought as well. So that's I was going to go. Series 1 is airing at the moment, episode 1, and we both come to it fresh. Is that okay with you?
That is more than okay. I look forward to that.
All right. So that's next week's Comedy Slab podcast, King Gary.
Super duper. Right. It remains to try and steer you to our social media or anti-social media presence. We are, of course, at Comedy Slab on Twitter. Do please follow us there. We tweet sparingly, but it's quality over quantity, I think. And also we are at Comedy Slab. There's a Facebook page, so if you could give that the old thumbs up, that'd be lovely. And personal recommendations, as you know, always, or if it's your first time, you won't know, but do please recommend us to all and sundry. And what else? Oh, star rating on iTunes and Apple Podcasts and so on would be wonderful. Any kind reviews warmly received, as they warmly leave you, I'm sure.
And like crumpled episodes or editions of Penthouse Under the Bed, back episodes.
Where's this going?
Back episodes are all in one handy place that you can secretively go and have a quick binge on whenever you fancy it.
I think this is your confessional this is turning into, and I think I'm going to tell your wife as well.
She's just run up the stairs to look under the bed. If you want to catch up with previous episodes of the Comedy Slab, is what I'm trying to say in a roundabout sort of way, you can do Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I'm always really impressed. I don't know why. I'm always really impressed that we're on Spotify. It just makes us seem like we're legitimate, doesn't it? You know, we're legitimate people.
It's almost like we're grown-ups. Yeah. I discovered a new one the other day. It begins with the word pod, but I can't remember it. But it's not Podimo, which is another new one. Anyway,
I keep getting emails from people
well.
saying, do you want to come and... I think, there's a limit, isn't there, really? So if you're not famous by now, you're looking in the wrong places. So there you go.
Right. Is that it?
Well, yeah. Until next time, I don't know what you're going to be doing, but I'm going to be making sure that one way or another I find out how this keeps happening. What?
That made me shake my headphones off with mirth.
If I find out what triggers that, then that'll be a help.
Well, that went down better than a lead balloon, but my headphones fell off like one. It remains for me to, I suppose, drive carefully, as we would like you to keep under the speed limit.
Don't assume anything, because your ass will be
the from your elbow.
Yeah, or something like that.